Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Continuing our coverage of the NFL playoffs in 2016. Two spectacular games occurred on Saturday between the Chiefs and the Patriots. And, of course, the one we're going to get to first, the Packers and the Cardinals. Now, we're going to break down the score for you before we are joined by Taylor Jones to break down more of the game in detail. But it started off in the first quarter with a great touchdown pass from Michael Floyd. 8 yards from Carson Palmer. Obviously, extra point was good, 7-0 to the Card. In the second quarter, mostly dominated by the Packers. 2 long drives that did not end in touchdowns. A 17-play, 85-yard drive that resulted in a Crosby field goal, and a 17-play, 71-yard drive that resulted in a Mason Crosby field goal. Headed into the half, 7-6, before Jeff Janis made his first of 2 touchdown catches in the game from Aaron Rodgers. 13-7. A field goal from Arizona later, a Michael Floyd touchdown later. It is 17-13. Of course, add one more field goal there, and you are set up for what was supposed to be a 20-13 victory for Arizona before you give Aaron Rodgers the ball back. And on 4th and 20, backed into your own end zone practically, he finds an open receiver for a 40-yard gain. Then there's no clock run off on what was not a live ball foul. Taylor's going to explain more of that, too, as when we get into it. And then Fitzgerald. We'll get to that, too. But then Aaron Rodgers does what he did earlier this season and makes an unbelievable off of his back foot Hail Mary to Jeff Janis. He beat the blitz. They sent Bruce Arians sent the pressure, and Jeff Janis hauls down what could have been, what should have been one of the greatest touchdown catches in NFL playoff history. But a couple plays later, into the overtime, Larry Fitzgerald runs down the field for 75 yards. Larry Fitzgerald gets a play drawn up for him, a little shuttle pass into the center of the gut, I should say, of the Green Bay Packers line and finds his way into the end zone. You really got to be happy for Larry Fitzgerald. He deserves all of these things. He really does. The final score was 26-20. A lot has happened in that game. There is too much to talk about. Taylor, thank you as always for joining us. We're going to start off, though, with the Arizona offense, some Carson Palmer. He did not look great. He did obviously enough to get the win. That's obvious. But was the Green Bay defense that good, or is there some issues going on with Carson Palmer and his finger?
Hey, well, Carson Palmer threw that dime to Floyd to start the game. You talked about it right in the corner of the end zone. You're not going to see a better play than that. But then the wheels fell off after that point. We talked about the tape on his finger. Um, Maybe you could tie some of the errant throws to that, but when you really look at it, they were just bad decisions. It's not like a better throw would have made the outcome any different. I think that's got to be a concern for Arizona moving forward. Is that while he's a gunslinger back there, and I will give him credit, he wasn't having the greatest day, but he wasn't shy about going back there and firing it out there again. So, but he's gonna have to eliminate some of those turnovers as he moves forward particularly in the NFC side of this thing. If it's whether it's Seattle or Carolina, you can't afford to have those types of mistakes against those defenses.
100% agreed. And when you look at the other side of it, too, Aaron Rodgers, man, and I thought this was true, and it was. In his last 3 postseason losses, he's led a game-tying drive in the final 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And in each of those instances, Rodgers wouldn't even touch the ball again as the opposing team possessed the ball the rest of the game. There is actually nothing else Rodgers could do besides putting him in as outside linebacker and seeing if he can make a play on defense. It literally comes down to him. He gets you into overtime or a win, and then the defense either falls apart. I shouldn't say falls apart. There's some defensive miscues, or the coaching goes wrong, or a bad play call, or a foul, or a penalty, whatever it might be. But you look at that and you go, Rodgers truly pulled off Tom Brady-esque magic in that game with Randall Cobb going down. These 3rd string, 4th string, 5th string wide receivers coming through for him. How good is Aaron Rodgers?
Hey, look, I don't think there's any debate that Rodgers is a walk-in Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it. I mean, the only thing the Cardinals defense had to worry about coming into this game was identifying where Randall Cobb was going to line up, whether it's in the slot, whether it's outside, and honestly, even in the backfield. I'm sure that was going to be a major part of their game plan. And when he goes down on a play that doesn't even end up counting, how about that catch, by the way?
Yeah.
He goes down. He's got a collapsed lung, I think was the recent diagnosis.
Bruised
So
lung was yeah.
now you're looking around the huddle. You're like, who are these guys? I've got Jeff Janis, who has 2 catches this year, 4 catches in his career, and Jared Abadarius, who came in with 9 catches. We talked about Pittsburgh last week having to turn to a running game that a combined backfield of 22 touches the entire season. Now you're talking about Aaron Rodgers making literally something out of nothing. Um, you know, the guy's legacy is already written. And it's just unfortunate that those two throws are going to go for naught because those
Yeah,
were those Hail Mary throws. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Two Hail Marys on one drive, just one didn't go for a touchdown.
it's true.
I mean, those are some of the greatest throws you'll ever see in the history of the game. The way he literally bailed out of the pocket, doesn't even have his feet set. He's going across his body to his left and literally chucks it 60 yards down the field. I mean, that is impressive.
On a dime. He chucks it 60 yards on a dime. And they said in the broadcast, Al Michaels mentions, like, one of the things with the Hail Mary pass is you have to give enough time for your receivers to get into the end zone. You
And
can't
no
have
one's
the ball
better at
short.
Rodgers buying time in the pocket. I
Oh,
mean,
of course.
he's gonna make plays with his feet. And I'm tired. I heard this, and we'll talk about this too in the Chiefs Patriots game. These sneaky athletic. If these guys are sneaking up on anybody and their athleticism is surprising anyone, that's on them. I mean, that is. I mean, these guys have been doing it. Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers. They're not sneaky. That's just who they are. That's what they do.
They're
Uh,
gamers, and that's what
yeah.
makes it so good it makes it so entertaining to watch, the sneaky athleticism. No, these guys are all NFL,
Right.
all pro quarterbacks for the most part, and not even just the quarterbacks. So let's go over that drive in OT for the Cardinals. After the very rare occurrence where the coin doesn't flip, which many
Yeah, how
people.
about that?
It just.
I mean, can the refs have a worse season and then they throw a coin in the air that doesn't even flip over? I mean,
Right.
that just sums it up right there.
But it fit that game so perfectly. Like, I can't believe there's another Hail Mary. I can't believe that 4th and 20 pass. I guess I can believe that the coin doesn't flip at this point in the game. But
Right.
so it wasn't many plays it took for really the crowd to get back into it because Carson Palmer rolled out, bought a lot of time, and found Larry Fitzgerald. I don't want to say, I don't think I've ever seen a receiver more open. Granted, it was seemed like broken coverage, not broken coverage, but a busted play as the play started. He started to roll out of the pocket. And Fitzgerald takes off for almost enough to get into the end zone, and 2 plays later he got there. What do you see from the Cardinals on that final drive, and especially the 2 play calls, the one where Palmer rolled out from Bruce Arians, and then the game-winning touchdown call from Arians?
Well, the long play to Fitzgerald, as you're watching it live, you're sitting there going, no, don't throw that ball.
Right.
Particularly with the game that Palmer had already had. I mean, he had the other play earlier in the game where he's rolling out and lofts one up to the end zone that gets picked off in single coverage.
Right.
So as he's doing that, you're thinking that was amazing escapability. But then as he's lobbing that pass across the field, you're going, no, don't do that. And then, of course, Fitzgerald catches it and takes it nearly to the house. And it couldn't happen. And you hear this all the time, and it's cliche. And there's not a better guy than Larry Fitzgerald. But forget him as a guy, as a football player. He's the hardest working. He's the blue collar. Tell me what to do. I'll go out and do it. I'm literally here for the team. And it couldn't happen to a better player. And my hat's off to Larry Fitzgerald. And then of course Arians lets him walk it into the end zone with that shovel pass there. And just to break that play down, and I don't want to get into too much detail here, but the fact that Larry Fitzgerald can line up in the backfield. Any other player does that, you're going alert on defense. You know something's up. But Fitzgerald does that all the time. He's a lead blocker in their eye package sometimes. He's coming into motion and cracking down on the defensive end. The simple fact that they can put him there and it doesn't alert the defense that something sneaky's about to happen is a credit to Bruce Arians and a credit to Fitzgerald for being kind of a Swiss Army knife player that you can put him in those situations and count on him.
It's the best way to put it, is the Swiss Army knife, especially because he's adapted so much throughout his career that he started off as one of the best deep threats in the NFL, and slowly but surely he's evolved as the NFL's evolved. He plays in the slot. He really, as you just mentioned, in the eye package, he blocks, and he's been doing it his whole career. That's just the player he is. If you look at his numbers, he's going to finish as one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's going to finish top 10 in yards and receptions and touchdowns. He's really close to finishing, one good season away from cracking Marvin Harrison's third all-time mark for around 1,100 receptions. So he's going to be in those record books, and of course he is deserving of that. By the way, all of the links to the plays that we've mentioned, both Hail Mary-esque throws, Larry Fitzgerald's 75-yard run and his touchdown, are all linked in the description below that anybody can check out, because we can't show them here. We have some pictures for you, but make sure to go check out those links as well, because if this is a game you rewatch because it was so much fun and we enjoyed doing it. Really, Taylor, the last question. I have 2 last questions for you we can do quick. One, Arians made a questionable call with 2 minutes left, in which he kind of tried to get over the shoulder to Larry Fitzgerald, which stopped the clock, and you're giving the ball back to Aaron Rodgers at that point. Belichick makes almost that same call. We can discuss that, of course, in the Chiefs and the Patriots game too, and it works out for him, even though it was deflected. Was it the right call? Was it a terrible call? Bruce Arians is such a good coach. We don't see him really make those bad calls. What was the thinking there?
I think you're thinking, I've got Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to give him a chance to make a play. But yeah, I mean, in the in the microcosm of the NFL, as a coach or as particularly as a play caller, if it works, you're brilliant. If it doesn't work, you're a dumbass. So, in this case, it didn't work out and almost cost him the game. But you have to be thinking, I'm at home here. I have a chance to literally put the nail in the coffin. So I'm going to go for it. It didn't work out, but you can certainly go back in hindsight and say, had they run the ball there, taken it down, the Packers probably still get the ball back, but they certainly don't have enough time to run the second desperation play that ended up in the touchdown to Janis, because they wouldn't be able to get everybody up to the line of scrimmage and spike the ball. So I'm sure that's going to be something he goes back and looks at and says, going forward, that's going to be a tough call to make because it certainly wasn't the right call in hindsight.
Right. A lot of tape to study, a lot of calls to question, but regardless, the Cardinals will be going to the NFC Championship Game, and they will await either the Seattle Seahawks or the Carolina Panthers. I don't want to jinx anything, but as of right now, it kind of looks like the Carolina Panthers because we're shooting this on Sunday morning as the game's going on. We'll be back tomorrow with more analysis, more coverage of the NFL playoffs, and make sure to stick around and check out the Chiefs vs. Patriots clip as well. Again, links in the description below for the plays. Make sure to check out Taylor Jones. Taylor, as always, thank you for coming on. We'll be back again in just a minute. See you next time.